everyone again. Hello to our speakers and moderators as well. So dive right into the discussion. I will just set up some context on why we have decided to have this discussion. So as some of you who already know Zuhlke might know that we are hosting a series of innovation-focused webinars where we discuss various digital or relevant technical topics. And the reason why we chose the digital ecosystems for this one, for this event, is quite simple. Lately, we're seeing not only just some discussions and POCs, but really an increasing amount of initiatives and projects at scale. And why is it so? There's definitely a few reasons behind it, and I know that Mirko, our panel moderator, will dive deeper into that. But I would believe that, of course, COVID-19 and all the changes it has brought along to our lives definitely gave a boost to the development of the topic of the digital ecosystems. In our previous webinar, we discussed the crisis as a catalyst for the digitalization. We have actually discussed some of the new trends that we all adopting in our lives. If we can find. When you will look at them, they, they're focused on sort of having, spending more time online and working, and not only spending and purchasing more things online. I hope that we can see the next slide, please. Yes, great. Thank you very much, Lorenz. Yeah, so these new habits, as you will look at them, you can clearly see the connection why most of them can lead into the this development of the digital ecosystems as a topic. There are many possible scenarios, whether it's generating new value in this challenging times for your customers, and or finding new distribution channels and being more incorporated in the life of your customer, or maybe aggregating the data through the ecosystems and your partners and starting to leverage it internally for, let's say, risk assessment or new underwriting ways. So there's a lot of areas of implication, and all of them are complex topics. And as we see more real-life implementations, we of course see more challenges arising. Technical, which is of course a big topic for us specifically, where we support our clients a lot, but also it's cultural, business, strategical. So it's a really sort of area to navigate around many possible questions. And as Zuhlke's one of the key missions is to help our clients to solve complex digital challenges. That's why we decided to have this, yes, thank you, to have this discussion, and invited a few brilliant experts, Yannick and Mirko, who work with the ecosystems domain from different angles. And I really am looking forward to this discussion so they can share their experience. Before I pass on the word to the speakers and for their introduction, I will also quickly introduce Zuhlke so you can at least understand why we are organizing that. So essentially, Zuhlke is a service provider, or how we prefer to say it, a partner for digital business innovation. We've been established in 1968, so we've been around for quite a while. Since then, we grew internationally. We have 14 offices, and essentially what we do is we build tailor-made digital solutions and software. So, of course, lately in our conversation, the projects we do with our clients in insurance specifically, this topic comes up a lot, and that's why we really would like to, have this discussion. And I'm located in Zuhlke, Hong Kong. My name is Paulina, and I'm a business development manager. I represent Zuhlke Asia. We have our HQ in Singapore and an office in Hong Kong. And then Mirko is from Zuhlke, Germany, but he will have his introduction later on. And at this point, I really hope that this discussion will be an insightful one for everyone. And if we can have our speakers to start introducing themselves. Ankit?
Yeah, thanks, Paulina. Hey, hello, everyone. This is Ankit. I work with Aegon as a director for digital transformation, part of the team responsible for executing our ecosystem partnership strategy. I come from the consulting background and I've worked with insurance firms within Asia. I look forward to sharing my views working with ecosystem. Thanks. Yeah.
Yannick?
Hello, everyone. I'm the head of the data science team for Swiss Re across APAC. We have a team of 17 data scientists supporting our business and our clients, the primary insurer, to transform data into insight, and in particular, customer and risk insight that allow us to underwrite, price, manage risk together with our clients, and more with their digital partner. And that's something that we will discuss today. Prior to this role, I was the head of the insurtech solution for Swiss Re Asia, where my role was to create tech and data partnership to basically create new products, new services for insurer across the region. So I've been working for Swiss Re for 4 years now, and I was a consultant before that. And I'm based in Hong Kong for the last 10 years.
Yeah, and I will just go on. Hello, everyone. My name is Mirko Lorenz. I'm a senior business consultant at Zuhlke in Germany. So I'm maybe bringing in today some European perspective, but I'm very happy to be here. I'm working for 10 years now in the financial service area, and started working as a consultant for Zuhlke 2 years ago, and mainly consulting our clients in the early phases of their projects. So when it comes to new digital offerings, products and services, not only in the financial services or insurance area, but also like in the mechanical industry. And so I'm very looking forward to the discussion today. We also had some upfront some discussions. I really hope that we can share them with you, also some views and some experiences from projects and initiatives from Yannick and Ankit. So I'm really looking forward to that. And please, everyone in the audience, just type in your questions within the chat so we can see if there's any particular point we could point out in the panel, or maybe also some insights from you that you would like to share with us so that we could pick them up. Well, and in the registration, we asked you to tell us what your experiences are, and most of you, to more than 50%, are already working on projects and initiatives within the space of the digital ecosystems, and some are just starting. So I will just have some input, some impulse, and some thoughts on the digital ecosystems to start with, and then we just go into some discussion. So it would be cool if you could share the first slide with the bubbles that will show you some picture that you might be aware of. That is, when talking about the digital ecosystems, one thing that comes always within the discussion is that they're evolving along the customer journey. So we will talk about customer centricity and their pains and needs today a lot, I think. But what you can see here is that there will be just within the next 5 to 10 years, depending on what study you are looking to, many traditional industries are changing towards this digital ecosystems. So that means they are here focused on day-to-day challenges of the customers, and they are combining a variety of services, products, and also vendors to fulfill this need in a very good way. Paulina, you just mentioned some of the things, and even when it comes to COVID, the expectations of the end users are just rising, like immediate response, very easy to use things, and there is already some differentiation at the market that you can see at the moment. And well, what you can see here that's always very interesting is that there is no insurance or there is no financial services ecosystem. Of course, you can discuss this. Why is that? But how I see it is that the insurance and the financial services in particular are something that is embedded within this ecosystems. So maybe that's a layer, maybe that's something that could fulfill a customer need just together with something else, with a product or with a service. But I'm really happy to discuss this just in a second. And on the next slide, maybe just some generic drivers. Why are we talking about this right now and not like 20 years ago? Is, of course, one thing is the digitalization and the technological change in general. I mean, we will talk about data, we will talk about connectivity and things that are today possible that weren't 5 years ago. And just as an example, when you're thinking about the connectivity of, for example, plants, machinery and stuff like that, then you will just have today access, very seamless access to data points that could bring you very close to the risk that you are measuring and that you would maybe will cover or want to cover with the insurance. And that's of course something that's very relevant. Another point, that there is this typical clear boundaries between the industries are blurring. So I think some years ago there was more comfort zone about, well, this is our playing field, this is the playing field of someone else. But now we see a lot of change there. Just as one example from Europe, I'm not fully aware how this is working in Asia, but we have this PSD2 regulation, like open banking or access to accounts, just that make data from accounts available, of course, with the consent, but available to like every player, like every fintech, like every insurtech. And so the solutions that could be built upon that are very cool. But of course, these data silos that have been there for the financial services for decades now opened, and well, in terms of the customer experience, that's great. But of course, this could also be a threat. Then, as just mentioned, the products are moving into the context, so the right time, the right place, just embedded in the context and embedded in the customer experience. And then, of course, from the economical point of view, that we see that a lot of platforms and the whole platform economy is rising. So in Asia, of course, Tencent, Alibaba, and so on, like very big players that are just there and offering their things to the client, to the end customer, and yeah, just thriving this digital ecosystems. And of course, the insurance companies will or have to or are already doing something to compete with that. And that brings us, Ankit, to the first question in your direction. So when talking about this digital ecosystems and all these drivers that I just pointed out in a quick, how is your company? How are you adopting your strategy towards this?
Yeah, thanks, Mirko. So as you rightly said, right, ecosystems are getting very prominent, specifically as a distribution channel. But just not distribution channel, it's also about serving these ecosystems. And that's where I think we focus a lot on. How do we serve these ecosystems once you have them on board? That's where a lot of customers are transacting, ecosystems are getting bigger in many parts. But as an insurance company, what do you do to serve these ecosystems? And sometimes the capabilities required are a bit different from your traditional insurance structure. A lot of our strategies focus to ensure that once we have them on board, what do we do? How can we organize ourselves? What capabilities we need to bring to the table so we can serve these ecosystem and these customers? You know, as these customers transact on this ecosystem, they are pretty much fulfilling all their daily needs, and your insurance needs to be part of that transactions. And it's different from where the insurance has been sold, right? It's a bit different. Though it's a distribution channel, it's a different kind of distribution channel. It's to my experience, it's unlike like many other distribution channels that are prevalent right now. So our focus is to build the capabilities that can serve this ecosystem, and that's where our strategy is focused. There's also a business development aspect of it. You get the ecosystems and the commercial aspect. I think we can talk about that later. If you ask me about the strategic aspect, it's more about building the capabilities to serve these ecosystems, and that's the challenge lies.
And Yannick, in your direction, with the view of an reinsurer, maybe slightly different or the same?
Well, I would say very similar. Looking to the new opportunities that digital ecosystem could bring to the industry. What's really interesting is that for us, more like habitual to work in a partnership environment, B2B, we are more at the back end, supporting primary insurer and their partners for more than 150 years. Especially in understanding better the customer needs and the risk that they are exposed to. So for us, it's really a data and a knowledge play. How within this ecosystem we can actually understand better, maybe micro segment, the customer, their needs, their risk, their behavior, especially in potentially changing quickly their behavior to be less exposed to certain risk, or when a risk happens, to basically be more quick to intervene to reduce the loss of the risk activation. And there are two things important there that is quite different from the way insurance was done before. When you think about ecosystem, first thing is that the customer is no more the insurance customer or the bank customer. So financial services have traditionally always think about their own customer journey. So with their partner, they will acquire customers. So this is the distribution area that Ankit was referring to. And then once they acquire the customer, they will basically assess the risk, they will price the risk, they will then manage the risk and try to keep the good risk in their portfolio for a while, and interact with the customer at the bad time when a claims happen. When you think about digital ecosystem, if you really want to scale and create value, you need to create value for the digital ecosystem. And that means you need to understand that the customer is no more your customer. It's actually part of this exhaustive ecosystem of partner. And the value comes from the customer when actually all the services from the ecosystem is seamless. And that means for the insurance, it's a quite dramatic change from the way the processes, the systems, the front end are organized, where you need to think a bit differently, understand the micro segments, understand the different touch points of the customer within the journey of the ecosystem, and then work with your ecosystem partner to transform this digital touch point into insight, customer insight. What is the needs? What is the protection needs at a particular moment in time in this journey that I can actually create a product or a service sometimes totally embedded into the service that they buy. So you're no more selling a product, you actually sell a protection embedded into a service in the digital ecosystem. And then the second is how do I translate all of this data into risk insights so that I can seamlessly understand better the risk I onboard and the risk I support. So this is where an actor like Swiss Re, #1 reinsurer globally, can help a lot, in particular into this risk knowledge journey.
Yeah, maybe before we start with the data point, that's a very interesting area. Ankit, in your direction, in terms of this different distribution channels, this different customer needs, and also like the different areas where you could bring in there. How could an insurer then start to evolving their product portfolio and their processes to fit in there? Because I can think just from your experience that it's not that you just have the product and you sell it just to someone else, but there needs to be something done and something be adapted, right?
No, absolutely. I think that also the point that Yannick mentioned, right, the customer aspect of it. Many times in these ecosystems, they are not your customers in a sense. The customers have gone through a certain journey and then they get exposed to insurance product. So what do you do there? So in my experience in what we have done, it's about building propositions. So products in a life and health space and P&C space are also very commoditized. So you have to focus toward building propositions on specific buying journeys or specific lifestyle need. That's where the product journey evolves, that you need to have the right propositions, and then as a data point Yannick was mentioning, have that intelligence to be able to plug it at the right point. There are various models of doing this. You can have an embedded ecosystem. You can also have a standalone tile that provides people insurance, and each of these have different journeys. So the product and propositions need change very drastically with the ecosystem. It's very different from traditional channels like your banca and even your own D2C, because you have some control of the customers. So data sharing is still a challenge in sometimes banca. But here, the data sharing, and we'll go again, we'll discuss it later, is definitely a challenge. But you have a customer who has certain affinity to doing certain type of things in ecosystems. He has certain mindset, and you can at least derive that. And if he's going through certain lifestyle categories, he would want a simpler proposition. Lengthy, complicated propositions are just not in, right? It's also common sense, but it's just not in. Nobody's going to, they will not allow you to drop off their customers from their buying or cart purchase. If that happens, it's pretty much a big no. So that needs to be kept in mind once you work with this ecosystem. It needs to add their proposition to their own value proposition, and it does not result in any category drop-offs while customers interact with these propositions. So these kind of things, and that's why it comes back to the customer aspect. You need to define it at the start. You need complete journey of customers, how you envisage what kind of value propositions different categories represent to the customer, and then attach it at the moment. So it's a tough ask. I wouldn't say it's easy one, but yeah, that's what's required.
But doesn't that mean that you have to be have to be involved in the development of the customer journey or the customer experience from the beginning? Or how does that work in your experience?
You need to be involved in the customer journey from the beginning, or you need to have some insights over the customer behavior. One, how has he come to this category, or what has happened that brought him to this category? You need to have those insights to do really intelligent personalization or intelligent propositions, which is the journey with every ecosystem partner. You can't get it at the start. It takes time. It's not something that you can really start off with. It takes time. It takes rhythm to work with partners, get deeper. And then there's also an aspect of once you acquire customers, sometimes you interact and you service them. So you have an opportunity to learn more about them and build your own segmentations, go more deeper into this. So there are various journeys. Some ecosystem providers allow you to do this. Some ecosystem providers don't allow you to do this. Some are your embedded partnerships. Some are your tile-based partnerships. So there are various flavors to this. But keeping customer at the start of your own proposition, so you have it covered yourself, irrespective of how or what ecosystems allow you, then that's a prerequisite here. And then depending on the flavor of whatever partnerships you get into, you can customize and go along.
Well, I mean, we could just jump in that kind of discussion, as it's very interesting in terms of which role is an insurer playing. This is I just can explain it very quickly. This is a generic example of how you could define different roles in an ecosystem. And that's from a German professor, so I like it. I use it very often. And basically, it says you have the customer, the end customer in the middle, and you have an orchestrator that is like managing the interface or the platform or the whole customer journey, and who is responsible for plugging in all the services and the products towards the customer. Then you have a realizer that is kind of the provider of content, the product or a service that could be offered on that platform, on that marketplace. And then you see enablers that have that's supporting the realizers and the orchestrators with technology, also with products and with services. So just for an example that I could see here is, as an orchestrator, of course, you will have as an easy example, the Uber in the mobility area was just plugging in different services there, or an Airbnb, of course. And you have realizers that could be an insurance company. This could be another after-sales service plugging in there. And you have enablers that could, for example, be something like a communication, but also could be something like a B2B platform, like I think in the area of banking systems, for example, in Germany, where we're seeing a lot that they're just providing their backend services, a very software as a service platform for everyone who is in there. So when talking about that, just as a generic model, I hope you understand it, but I'm sure about that. What do you think? Is an insurer able to play the role of an orchestrator, or which role would you see is there and relevant for an insurer, and maybe also in which areas or in which ecosystems?
I think it's an interesting framework. My point of view is ecosystems could come in either of these shape and form. As an insurer, the difference between say the mobility services in Uber and an insurance with an ecosystem is insurance take risk on their books, right? We provide value and services, but we do take risk on the book. Unlike a lot of ecosystem provided where the value exchange is pretty much symmetrical, you pay for something and you get something back. So the data then starts to play a role. If you ask me, all of this is possible for an insurance within an ecosystem. It just depends what kind of partnerships you get into. And then it depends on what kind of data you have, data sharing arrangements, and what kind of data you can access. Providing services is a must, but sometimes you don't get an opportunity to provide service. Other ecosystems don't allow you to do that. But providing services, and if you get an opportunity, I think that's a way to build brand, because sometimes it's a challenge with insurance to get lost with the large ecosystems, right? The brands can get lost. People don't realize whom they are bought from. So services is an opportunity to have your still have customer share of mind with you. So service is a prerequisite, and either of this is possible. It just depends on what kind of ecosystem you get into. And then have and who owns the customer, what are data sharing agreements, how much risk you're with. There is an element of fraud there as well. So there are multiple things. In my mind, insurance is a bit more complicated than normal exchange of services, even banking. And that's why you have to tread carefully how you move across things.
I think a question from me to Yannick now, because Ankit has mentioned the sort of the importance of which kind of partnerships you're going for, and that it also will define some sort of what you're doing. For Swiss Re, I mean, I personally know that you collaborate a lot, and how do you view that partnership? And then also the last point that Ankit mentioned, maybe who owns the data, but more on like the partnerships. What do you think is the key considerations to have when you going into the ecosystem and strategizing it?
Well, for us, we have a different kind of partners, and it will depend also of the business model that we apply in the partnership. So maybe to make it very short, we have currently four kind of business units. One is the reinsurance, traditional reinsurance, as people will know it, where we're more at the back supporting the primary insurer into all the risk activities. So designing a product, pricing it, underwriting, risk assessment, risk management. So here in this particular business model, we will look to either data partner, so a partner that have access to digitalized data that we use in the past, or we currently use in our risk modeling. So when we find a partner that have access to digital data that we know the predictive risk power, it's then much easier to actually integrate this into our automation processes and to differentiate ourselves with primary insurer. Then we have I would say more, let's call it super app kind of distribution partner. So the ecosystem partner that have access to a large volume of potential customer that have not yet bought insurance, or have maybe they have bought insurance but they have remaining risk needs that have not been covered. And here we work closely with them to actually, as I explained, walk ahead in the customer journey of the ecosystem. Okay, what are the interesting touch points or associated products or needs that could arise, and do we have actually a risk model that we could apply to this data to actually build a service that will be fully embedded. So an example, I'm not sure if you see, but when you take a Uber trip, in India, for example, on the home screen, it will tell you you are insured for this trip. And so there is an insurer somewhere in India that insured all this trip, but nobody is buying a product. Actually, it's an embedded protection services that Uber use as a differentiating factor. And you might pay a bit more premium in your Uber cost. This I don't know, but this is the way basically protection will become more and more embedded as a services in a exhaustive product sold in an ecosystem, and less customer that have to actually think about what is my protection gap, what is my need. Okay, let me buy this product, and this is quite different from the way insurance was done. Maybe it's more closer to the commercial lines and the B2B insurance that it was to B2C. So that's why there is quite a lot of challenge for primary insurer to actually adapt themselves to this new reality. And by the way, I quite like your slide with all this bubble, because all the big insurer have already identified that it's a no-brainer. They need to adapt themselves to work in this digital ecosystem environments, as we know that digital ecosystem will account for 30% of global revenue by 2025. And this was a projection that was done before COVID. So COVID have actually accelerated the utilization of digital services by customer. So we could potentially guess that this might come quicker than 2025, and 2025 is not far away. So a few things that insurer needs to adapt is first the backend, where today still a lot of insurer very siloed in their backend by value chain from product underwriting, sales, claims. So we already see that a lot of insurers are starting to combine all of this together in a more digitalized insurance platform that each silo communicate to each other, and each silo have a digital point of tree. But then there are some insurer like Zongan or some others that have actually built from scratch a full end-to-end digital platform that actually no more care about the silos. Everything is integrated in an end-to-end digital insurance platform that can support from one entry all the services that an insurer will need to provide in this ecosystem world. And what we believe, Swiss Re, with the research that we've done, is that this digital end-to-end platform, it's basically what will be needed to scale. And then, as I explained, what we also see is a move from product to services, embedded services, where basically all the interaction is done within the platform of the ecosystem. So a lot of challenge around that, around data privacy, around understanding how to manage big data, having the right talent in your organization to manage partner, to transform data into insight, onboard, changing the culture from the actuaries to actually be able to go ahead of the actuarial model and understanding machine learning, for example, or predictive modeling. So this is just a few of the challenges that the insurer have, but a lot of insurer actually are starting their journey. So.
Yeah, maybe just one example, because as you were mentioning a lot of important things. It's just one thing I can second is we often talk with our clients about we see the market challenges there, but we also see like the technological challenges, like the old backend systems, how to adapt to APIs and stuff like that. And then there are two things. One is, well, yeah, they're different, but two that come to my mind directly. One thing is, we cannot have our systems like we have that, so we have to build APIs so that we are able, as Ankit were just mentioning, to plug in specific customer journeys, because we cannot build like 50-30 products just to fit in there. So we have to be flexible, and then we need also flexibility in the systems. And then the second step, so that's a no-brainer for all of them. Of course, that's cost intensive, and that has to be planned very well. But on the other hand, also one thing that I recognize is that then the next step is, well, if I'm building that platform, I can offer it to someone else there. And that's a very good thing to think about. But then imagine, okay, if now everyone starts to build this platform and offering it to someone else, so who big could the market be there? So like, is it worth it on a value base? And then on the other hand, if I think about the very big insurers, the very big reinsurers, who can just like flip a coin, and then there are a lot of resources, a lot of capacity. So how fast could you be to compete with their solution? And wouldn't it be then easier to just go on the branch? And what comes then next is, of course, so just one thought. And then the next thing is, well, but is this then differentiation? So is there enough space for everyone to compete within the next years, or is there a niche, or what is the strategy? And that's always a very, very cool discussion, from technology to the market and back and forth.
Yeah. I can add another. Yeah, Yannick, you want?
Yeah, go Ankit. I just spoke.
No. Yeah, I can add something, Mirko. That's a very interesting point, actually. Yeah. So there's a fact that some of the ecosystems market is getting saturated. Especially some of the big markets. And you need to find your niche. And sometimes the niche, Yannick was also mentioning, is if you can partner with right partners which can provide you some access to data. There are specific product lines where certain data points act as a good proxy to underwriting decisions. And if you can build your niche on those product lines using those data points, then you can build niche. P&C, there are certain lines, life has certain lines, credit is one, credit trade protection is one. So there is an opportunity to build niches in specific areas. But then again, it requires quite an overhauling of the way you do underwriting, the way you have traditional actuarial models. It requires, but there's an opportunity to build specific niche. It requires you to really identify where, what verticals, and sometimes also some business development work. But it is getting saturated as well. I think that's a fact. There are only so many super apps and ecosystems, and pretty much it's a platform economy, so usually winners dominate. So that it's going to be competitive, quite competitive going forward.
Maybe that's a good point. We prepared one poll question towards the greatest hurdles there, because we covered a lot of them already, but it would be interesting to the audience, so all of you that are listening to us at the moment, to think about what are, from your point of view, from your market, from your business, the biggest hurdles for entering or building an ecosystem or participating there. Is it more on the strategic level, like deciding which ecosystem is the right, what are the right partners? Is it the adoption of the products, the processes, or as we were also talking about, technology, the capabilities, and the culture and the mindset? And now for Yannick and Ankit, in your question, in your direction, as the audience is answering that poll, if you have to decide, what would you think from your perspective?
For me, what I see is the biggest hurdle. It's maybe not here, but we are in a heavily regulated industry, and there are a lot of gray area around working with ecosystem partner, around regulation, data privacy, data sharing, what the pricing with alternative data, and the rating with. So there is so many gray area that it's actually sometimes a kind of a bet. So maybe I put it in the strategy area, if regulation could be associated to strategy. Sometimes you need to take a bet of where you believe the regulator will go, and each market is a bit different. So that make it a bit difficult to scale and to craft your strategy. And for all the rest, I think these are things that you can scale quickly, or you can outsource. There are a lot, to your point, there are a lot of good platform already existing, so you might not need to create your own platform. This is not maybe the platform that will help us differentiate yourself in particular area. What will differentiate, to Ankit's point, is your capacity to quickly transform data into risk, needs, products, prediction, behavior insight, that you can then basically help this digital ecosystem to create something meaningful for the customer. So I would say strategy and regulation, because of the regulation hurdle. Okay. And I will say the last one, the culture and mindset. You can have everything right, but at the end of the day, if your people are not empowered and are not trained to work in a digital ecosystem, big data world, then yep. Yeah, forget about it.
Yeah. Ankit, what are your thoughts?
For us, I mean, all the partner that we have, being a data partner, where we basically, so we have data partner, we have technological partner, we have distribution partners, and then depending on the line of business as well. I would say we try to actually be quite specific in the initial MOU that we signed with this partner. So as to Ankit's points, when you deal with this digital and tech partner, the speed of going to market is something that's not a lot of insurers have seen in the past. They want things done in weeks, not months, not years. So before you go and see a partner, you better be ready. Yeah? So we spend a lot of time to actually identify, okay, this type of partner, what kind of data they should have access, what can we do with this data? With data, we already know the prediction power, which one we don't know. We have hypotheses about the journey I was speaking about. What are the products maybe we could create? Can we leverage existing platform, existing solution? So when we go to a partner, we already quite ready into understanding what's the value. There might be 2 or 3 different kind of business model, different way to go to market about it. But we know not exactly, but we have a pretty good idea about what kind of data will be important for us to have access to, how the partnership could look like. Is it joint IP or not? Is it more a distribution play? Is it more a product? Is it more a risk model play? So I think it's important the insurer do all this homework, because once you sign the MOU, the partner expect everything fast. And to Ankit's point, they don't really know how insurance works, so they don't really care. So you cannot tell, well, I need my actuaries to work for 6 months and get the expense. It will not work. So I would say, yeah, spend more time ahead, and then once you sign, then you need to deliver. That's what I've seen it work.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Yannick. And as we're coming to the conclusion of the webinar, I think that's a question from me to actually Mirko, also to hear your opinion. What do you think the insurers should be focusing on, especially if it's relatively the beginning of this journey? So I've heard, for example, focusing and choosing your distribution partners right, and definitely approaching the culture and the mindset, as well as the technology. How would you summarize that, Mirko?
Well, I mean, that's of course my biased opinion here, but I would see as one thing is, when it comes to that, we need what Yannick just pointed out: speed, being prepared, know what you want. Then this will be for me being clear what your strategy is. Like, for example, what is the ecosystem you think you have a niche, or you have an unfair advantage towards others, and then just start there. Start with the customer needs and the customer problems, and then derive your value proposition there. And then, of course, it comes to if you have an architecture technology set that you can just adopt, that's good. But otherwise, time to market before building on your own. That would be my, and then find a partner that offers that, or getting partners on board that can help you with that problems. That would be my take out of that discussion today. And don't underestimate the value of data, but on the other hand, don't underestimate that it takes a lot of knowledge, a lot of time to set this up, that it's very running.
Yes, definitely. Actually, just lately, I've been also having a few conversations, and to the points of like Yannick saying that, you know, they aggregate a lot of data, but then also Ankit saying that some of the data is actually not really useful or sort of selectively. I think there's still definitely a lot of thought and effort should be put into making this data reliable for all the like internal risk estimations, etc. And that does require quite a lot of effort, both in terms of the technical assessment in the technical environment, but also in terms of the people. And as Mirko, you've just said, an understanding of what it is that we want to do with that, and what would be our differentiator. I think that's also a very important topic. I think, well, we are right at 7 p.m. And I think that would be a good time to conclude. Maybe if Yannick or Ankit has any other last summaries that you want to share and leave our attendees with, a food for thought for the evening.
Well, thank you for the invite, first of all, and I hope the session was insightful and a good use of time for you and all the attendees, of course. And if you have any question on how Swiss Re is transforming data into risk solution insight, let me know, as we already have a lot of machine learning and AI solution in production across APAC.
Yes. Thank you, Yannick, for your really unique input there. Ankit, anything from you?
Nothing much else from me. I think the key question though is which ecosystems will become an insurer. I think that's something we have to watch out and see. I think we had this discussion on what insurance can do in an ecosystem, but it might flip around in some time. So that's a space to watch out for.
Yeah, and it's a very individual journey, I think, for each company. And like for me specifically, Aegon, I think it's a really great example of how you you your way and actually starting to enact it. So I think it is a good point to know what exactly will work for your company. Mirko, do you want to say goodbye to everyone? And
yeah, I mean, just let's say goodbye to everyone, right?
Yeah, thank you very much for everyone who participated, and thank you for our speakers. We hope that
Thank you.
will.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.